Where are you at? I don't mean to ask where are you physically sitting at the moment, or even where in the world you live. I'm asking you your state of readiness if a crisis arrives. The last 2 years have shown us that you can expect unexpected events, and they can impact your lives negatively. Let's look at some examples for what's going on right now. We've got a pandemic. And you can do climate change, and you could do economic disruption. Let's start with the pandemic. We're currently experiencing a once-in-a-century pandemic. The last time something like this worldwide happened was the Spanish flu in the 1917 or whatever. Whether you believe the problem is with the current virus is really serious or not, there's no question the fact that the pandemic's impact on us is real. No matter if it's due to unexpected shortages of toilet paper, disruptions of the supply chain, rising prices because of the disruptions, it doesn't matter. These are effects you have to live with. Now, as far as climate change, well, some people say, oh, man-made climate change, blah, blah, blah. And it doesn't matter if it's man-made or if it's just a natural cycle. You can have your opinion, I have mine, it doesn't matter. It's happening. And whether it's heating or cooling, it's probably both. It's more of a shift from what the normal patterns are to what they are now. This week, down here in the south, we have warm temperatures. But out in California, they're having record snowfalls. What can you do? Economic disruption is the third topic that we're dealing with. Part of that was due to the pandemic and the climate change causing problems. But if you lose your job, does it really matter if it's because your business was closed for too many months because of the pandemic? Just the type of things we have to do. Now, in the future, are we going to have more of the same? Possibly. Things that can happen in 2022. We could have another lockdown. Hooray! Because not Omicron, which is the current version of the virus going around right now, but some of the new viruses that are showing up from China or parts of Africa. And those could cause a real problem. We could, due to the climate, we could have snowstorms, ice storms. They're seeing them out in the west, in the north. Hurricanes is something I expect we're overdue for down here in the south. All these things can cause damage, power outage, all sorts of problems. What are you going to do? And then there's the deal with the economic disruption. How many of you have already lost your job? How many of you could lose your job if things get bad enough? Even if you keep your job, have you noticed prices are going up? And actually, no matter what the government says about inflation, the real inflation rate, it's probably in the teens if you include things like fuel and food, because they don't count those in calculating the inflation rate at all. Those things are what we really need to buy, and they're getting more expensive. So even if you are able to keep your job, will you be able to afford the necessities of life? Things you can do so that it doesn't become a problem. First of all, do what I do. and a lot of others. Store things you use. Buy them now before they get any more expensive, and just store them in the cupboard if they keep for a while. You like canned soup? Buy it by the case. When you have to go in and buy 6 cans of soup to last you the next week, buy a whole case and put the stuff you don't need away in the cupboard. FEMA says on their website that you should have 3 days of backup food, so you're not going out and buying to the grocery store every day. 3 days, the idea is if there's a power outage or a tornado or a hurricane, 3 days will get you through until the rescuers can come in. I question that based on some of the disasters we've seen in the past few years. 2 weeks would be better for that. But if you're serious about it and things really get bad, maybe 3 months, that would be best. And if you can store up a full year or more of food or water, you're golden. And in fact, that would get you by until you could actually start producing it in a garden or something. Beside the point. Second, one thing you need is a means to provide heat and electricity to live off of, because there are just so many ways that our power grid can go down. Most of us who live in places where there's inclement weather or anything else will experience power outages intermittently. Usually nothing too big, 30 minutes, half an hour, a day or two if it's a serious snowstorm. But what if it is down for a week or a month? Keeping the refrigerator door closed for that power outage that lasts a day will work. But if it goes out for a week, anything you've got in there is going to spoil. You need to have a way to keep electricity going into that piece of equipment. And if you live in a cold climate, you better have an alternate way to heat your home. More on that later. What you can do to provide your electricity, and I've talked about this in previous podcasts, you could have a whole house generator. Expensive, but you can definitely take care of things. I have a grid-tied system on my house. It doesn't provide all my needs. And if it's raining or really miserable outside, it's hardly going to give anything. But even on a cloudy day, it provides something. And if it's really sunny, it provides more than I can use. The battery backup that comes with it, if it's fully charged, it will last for a few hours. So my hope is if we have some catastrophe, I don't have days of darkness with no sun, that I'm able to go ahead and at least generate some electricity. You can also go ahead and get one of those little portable Jackery, I think is one of the brands, where they call it a solar generator, where you put in the little portable solar panels, plug them into this thing, it'll charge up, and then after you take it to wherever you need to run power, it'll run equipment. It'll run your lights, it'll run your furnace, it'll run your refrigerator. That's an alternative. It's not as good as the whole house job, but you can throw it in your car if you have to go somewhere. There's also generators, either gasoline, diesel, natural gas. They make a bunch of different ones. Those things will run. If you have a large generator, you could actually plug your house into it, have an electrician go ahead and do it for you, so you've got a switch to turn off your external grid, because otherwise you might be possibly putting power into the electrical grid and electrocuting some poor lineman trying to fix the problem. But if all you have is a little Honda 2000 watt generator, that ain't going to take care of running your refrigerator or something, but you can run some lights, charge your cell phone, gives you something. Heating your house. If you've got a fireplace, either wood or gas, you could probably heat at least part of your house, if not the whole thing. I know some places out in the country, they'll have wood stoves. Those guys don't need anything but wood. Another thing that I've got as a backup to everything else are some little candle lanterns. These little guys have 3 specialized candles that are in the lantern. You light those up, put the glass cover on it, and let it run, and those things will put out 5,000 BTUs. I got 3 of them in the closet, so I could go ahead and set those up, different locations, and actually provide a little bit of heat to the house. It's not going to heat the whole place, but it will provide something if it's really cold outside. Not that we experience really cold weather often, but it's something. Now, as far as the economy and the economic problems we could experience, first of all, if you can, pay off your debts. Don't get a lot of credit card debt and such. Those credit cards are terrible, very big, high interest rates. The only good credit are when you get a mortgage for a property, especially when you've got to live in and pay for it anyway if you don't own it free and clear. But if you don't owe anyone any money, then they can't come after you and cause you problems, at least not as easily. In addition, you should have what they call an emergency fund. You know, $1,000 in the bank just to take care of emergencies that come up, because things are going to happen. Your car is going to break down, or the furnace is going to go out in your house, or whatever it is. It's always something. So have that emergency fund. And if you can accumulate it, go ahead and have enough money to pay off recurring costs for food and utilities and rent and so forth for 6 months. That one's harder, but build up to it if you can. Then, on a way to fight inflation, and we are probably going to be looking at some heavy inflation in coming years, get into hard assets. Land is a hard asset. Silver and gold are nice too. Since they're portable, land you can't move, but you can pack up a suitcase full of silver or gold and carry $100,000 across the border if you need to. I don't have that kind of money that I can fill up a suitcase with gold, that kind of money. I do have a little bit of silver because, face it, you can buy silver cheap. You get a 1-ounce coin for $25 or $30. And you just go out and buy one of those a month. If you should be able to afford that. If you can't, go out and buy silver dimes. You can get those for a couple bucks. If you can't afford that, take a look at what you're spending your money on. Are you going out every day buying a Starbucks at $5 a pop? Seems like there might be a better way to invest your money. Anyway, there have been unexpected events the last couple of years that we didn't really appreciate because they messed up our lives. It doesn't take much imagination to see that the future, especially in the next year or two, are going to get in the way of our intended plans no matter what. Taking a few precautions to be ready for most of these things that can happen may pay big dividends when something does happen. And if nothing happens, then we can still consider ourselves ahead because we're not worried about what the future will bring because we're ready for it. This is some old man signing off.